We're back and we're joined by the executive producer of the show of the week, the month, the year, the White Lotus. Dave Bernad is also the executive producers of huge hits like the brilliant Jury Duty, Superstore and White House Plumbers. And we are so lucky he was able to come and answer all of our most pressing questions. We're also joined for the first time. He's making his pod debut and we're sharing. We're sharing.
Like middle schoolers.
Yeah,
so
like,
yes,
exactly.
On the subway.
Like middle schoolers. We're sharing our headphones. Kevin Fallon, who is the Beast's obsessed editor, and he is obsessivo about the White Lotus. Dave, is there any merch you can send us? Because we do feel like we need some merch.
We're very dedicated fans over here.
I'm gonna Joanna, give me the address. I'll send you guys something.
Okay.
I want to say though, I'm a little offended you didn't mention our hits show, the Bold Type.
I was going to ask you how you know each other. So you worked on the Bold Type together. So you've known each other for
We've known each other for a long time. Dave is one of my closest friends, I would say, and over the years we have given each other endless dating advice. Is that fair, Dave?
It's fair.
Has it been good advice is a big question.
Dave is my +1 when I'm in LA.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, when he's not on a Four Seasons show, that is. When he's
Of
not.
course.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm so sad that the show is over. I actually don't know what to do with myself.
Weeping. That's over.
Please tell me that you're already in progress with the next. I know you're not already in progress with the next season, but I want you to be so badly so that I can watch it again really fast.
I think he probably is.
Okay.
We are. I mean, spiritually, we're in
Spiritually.
progress, but we're gonna take a little break, and then
Okay.
this is. I mean, as you notice, I have no voice, which is probably a result of the stress of season 3. But we'll be getting back into it very soon.
Okay. God bless.
I do need to be an extra. I'm so annoyed because Dave said to me when they were doing the one in Italy, he said, come down, you can be an extra, you can sit in all the background shots. And I didn't do it. And I don't know why I didn't do it.
He'll take you to the next one when it's in like the snow mountains of Switzerland or something.
Yeah,
You'd be
where is the
freezing
next
your
one
butt
going to
off.
be shot, Dave?
Yes.
Don't know yet, but I would bet a lot of money it won't be in the snow, just because Mike White does not like the cold. But you never know. Anything's possible. But yeah, we're not sure yet where the next season will be yet.
You know what? I heard Scott Galloway's voice in this season of The White Lotus. So, Joanna, that's going to be you next time.
I hope so. Well, where do we begin? So many questions.
So many questions. What is it? First of all, what does it feel like to be at the center of something that everyone is talking about? Have you lost your voice because you were screaming from partying so hard?
I wish it was that interesting. Now, it's a shock truly that that people have embraced the show in the way they have, and kind of we started with a very humble beginning, so it was kind of this COVID experiment. And I think at one point they even wanted us to shoot it like on Zoom and nobody in the same room, and it started kind of very small. And so Sunday night for the finale, HBO put together this kind of finale event, and I was there, and it was truly surreal, like a room of 1,000 people watching the finale panel, and would never ever have guessed this is where the show would end up.
Right. I had a very specific theory about how this season was going to end, and I shared it with Joanna, and I'm glad to say that I was wrong. But I thought that a tsunami was going to come and kill it was totally nihilistic. I thought that all of the storylines would resolve, and then a tsunami would come and kill everybody. And that was my version of...
That is so
Isn't
dark.
that dark?
Yeah, you're a catastrophist.
I am a
It's the only
catastrophist.
thing darker than the actual finale was.
I know. This really speaks to who I am as a person. What comes first for you? Is it the location or is it the idea? Like, what is the first step in the next iteration of the show?
Yeah, I think its theme is always the first idea. And I think, for season 2, we knew it was going to be more about the sexual politics of men and women. And so as we kind of we took a step back, we knew we wanted to do Europe and kind of where thematically would that make sense, France, Italy. So we went and scouted both France and Italy. And then we just found a hotel we fell in love with in Taormina in Sicily. And I think, and then organically, the real story is that Mike and I we were in Palermo in Sicily, and we were on a tour, and we'd seen all these heads everywhere, and these kind of like, it's like a head of a Moor soldier. And we asked the tour guide, like, what are these heads? And they told us this very interesting story about this soldier who had come to Sicily and was having an affair with this Sicilian woman, and then she finds out that he has a wife and family back home, so she chops his head off.
Wow.
And that's what those heads kind of represent. It's just like this intense jealousy. And so it was like a perfect way into season 2. In season 3, we knew it was going to be about Eastern philosophy and religion. And so we kind of were focused on, Japan and Thailand. And as we kind of went around Thailand and kind of fell in love with just kind of, the Buddhism, the people, and the real story, which we've talked about in the press already, which is we were in the north of Thailand, and Thailand is a very witchy place. Like you kind of feel it as you're there, and especially in the north. And Mike had gotten sick. He got bronchitis, and he went to the hospital, and it was on this thing called a nebulizer. It's a really strong steroid. And he basically was up for 2 nights, and he hallucinated the season. And I saw him the next morning, the scout van, and he basically said, I had this vivid hallucination, and that is, pretty much what we shot was his nebulizer.
I need that nebulizer.
Wow.
I need that
my
nebulizer
gosh.
now. You need to bottle that and sell it
Put
because
some branding on it.
Yeah.
White Lotus branding.
everybody's going to have that in Silicon Valley. Everybody will be nebulizing.
That's how we
now.
imagine every episode
Yep.
of this podcast. We try to hallucinate it the night before, and then it just comes to life.
So, did you become more spiritual when you were there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. I think I was there for 11 months, almost a year, and I think just Buddhism as a practice and as a religion is a very beautiful idea, and it's such a gentle culture, nonviolent. In this idea of there's an acceptance, I think that Thailand is known for, and that a lot of that kind of permeates out of Buddhism, and so. I think being there for that long and kind of, you're especially you're on the other side of the world. And so when you wake up, everyone is falling asleep. So most of your day is spent alone without your phone, communicating with people. And so I think there's a lot of time for existential, thought and exploration. And that's really what the show's about, obviously, this season. And so I think everyone had their own experience, and it was a weird thing going on this season. A lot of us had various health issues during the season, and we all at some point ended up in the hospital. I ended up in the hospital, and so I think a lot of the cast ended up in the hospital in very weird kind of random stuff. And so I think it was that plus just being in a very spiritual place for that long. It was impossible not to have some sort of deeper kind of conversation with yourself, which is what the show, the season really is about. It's about identity in the prison that we find ourselves in, and that we create for ourselves. And each character is kind of working through their own kind of prison of their identity.
I think what I love about it is that every moment, there's no moment wasted in the show. Everything is so intentional. And even the way that, because I really am just a huge fan, so I read, I'm reading all the articles about it, and you all talk about it in such a grounded reality. I understand that it's very grueling to make a TV show. And the way that you're all talking about it is helping me to understand it. And I actually really appreciate that, because I don't like it when people come back from set and they're like, we're all best friends and everything was perfect and it was just like a great big vacation. We all learned to surf. I like talking about things. I like knowing what the work is like. And you've been in the news because your composer is having such an interesting, I'm sorry to bring this up, but your musical composer is saying things about the show that are shocking to me, actually. It seems like there was conflict there. Can you talk about that? Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really, that's him doing that interview kind of blindsided us, to be honest. And
right.
Anytime you're taking on a creative venture, there's creative conversations.
Sure.
And I think what was so surprising for us was that there was nothing interesting that happened in that experience other than us giving notes to a collaborator, which is the process in every creative venture. And Mike White, who is a true genius, and not only is he a creative genius, but he's the most kind,
right,
thoughtful collaborator there is. And as someone who kind of was there for every moment of that experience with our composer, you kind of read this interview and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
What the hell?
Genuinely, because I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Right.
And Mike could not have been more thoughtful in how he approached Christo, who of course, Christo is a incredibly talented person. And I think what, Mike did an interview yesterday. I think he put it best. You realize this guy thought we were a bunch of morons and didn't respect us. And I think in his interview, he refers to me as a hysterical producer.
Oh, that's you.
Oh, that's you.
Like, the entire process of trying to make the show in post with Christo was one of trying to kind of like, pulling teeth and having to kind of resist any urge of getting worked up, because he just would not listen to us and actually treat us like we were morons.
Right.
And as if the show was for him, like as if he created the show. We were just off spending 2 years making this show that so he could, it's all about his genius.
Right,
So
right.
he made it all about himself. And it's funny. It's just like, feels like a very petty, like high school conversation. And the fact that New York Times is writing about it in like the midst of like an economic meltdown.
Sure.
It was kind of confusing, but, it was kind of hurtful because I think we went out of our way to kind of be good collaborators to him, who was
Right.
never a good collaborator to Mike or us. And I just want to say one thing about it, which I think, and obviously we're fortunate that people even care to write about something that is so not interesting. There's nothing interesting that happened in that story other than Christo had one point of view. We had another point of view. He left, we fired him, like, whatever the he said, she said is that, it all comes down to this idea of like, the theme song, which people were so excited about. And really what happened in the third season is Christo, presents a song to us that was very different from the first two seasons.
Right.
Right. My theory on that is, the second season, sorry, this sounds so nice. It sounds so uninteresting.
I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting.
So, second season, the song wasn't nominated for an Emmy, right? Because it was unable to be nominated for an Emmy because it was too similar to season one.
Okay.
There's very specific rules.
Yes.
And then, like, if the theme song is similar, so it's the same theme song can't win for multiple seasons. So it was this whole issue. And we fought. We were there and we were fighting with the Academy to get it nominated, and it wasn't nominated. So he presents in the third season a song that is completely different from the first two seasons.
Right.
We gave notes. He made adjustments. And finally, he's like, this is what I want it to be. So we sent it to HBO. HBO did not like it. They had thoughts. And, I think there was this desire to make it similar to the first two seasons, which people obviously responded to, which Christo refused to do. And so ultimately what happened, Mike and I talked about it, and HBO, and it caused me a lot of drama. Like I got into a lot of fights with HBO about it. And ultimately we said, Christo as an artist has earned the right to make the theme song what he wants it to be. So then I, on email, wrote to Christo and said, HBO's notes, here are their notes, here are our thoughts, but you have earned the right to make the theme song whatever you want to make it. He responded basically that they don't know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. We said, great. So that was a song that we went forward with. And something's been confused in this conversation, which for me, I take personally because, people are attacking Mike or writing these articles about Mike. We had nothing to do with the theme song. That is Christo's arena. And we as collaborators respect Christo as an artist and said, great, this is what you want. We support you, right?
Right.
So that is why the theme song in season 3 changed. That is what Christo wanted. And then at some point the song comes out and there's a negative response. And Christo calls me and says, hey, I have a great idea. I'm going to give people what they want. Here's, a 2.5 minute song, blah, blah, blah. And we spoke about it internally and we said, you know what, we're not going to just change it because people are complaining. That feels like feels like a weak move, right? So we said, no, we're going to stick with the theme song that we presented. And eventually people grew to love it. And that's, that's how we are now. But just to say it, like, I'm very defensive of Mike and I was there. I lived every experience. And he's a fucking asshole to like go out in the press and make it all about himself, where there's 1,000 people who've worked really hard to make this show, and the finale is coming out and he's trying to like trash us in the press and drag us for no reason. We never spoke about it. We never talked about firing him. We never talked about the drama of changing. We never blamed him. We never talked about him. We never talked about how he was a fucking asshole during the whole process. And then he just kind of, for whatever reason, did multiple interviews trying to trash us.
Well, this is the perfect time for the two of you to do the ooh, loo, 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 loo.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, like, in hindsight, yes, it would have been great to have all of that in the theme song, but it comes down to Christo, as an artist, earned the right to make the song he wanted to make, and we support him. I should have saved all that for my therapist. I appreciate you listening.
Oh, we love to be a therapist for you.
Of
like
course.
that's our biggest dream.
You can tell it's personal to me. So
My biggest question for you, because I've counted and we've written over 100 stories about the White Lotus for the Daily Beast this year.
Wow.
So my first question is, what is your check out of clear for that? But also, I know you've also experienced with jury duty, and what is it like when a show that you maybe never expected to be this kind of water cooler thing that the New York Times is interviewing this composer and you're now speaking to this about? What is it like when that happens at the show that was just a small thing that you felt really deeply about explodes in this way?
yeah, it's very surreal that and I think Mike and I, we're both used to making shows or movies that are critics love and that really find this wide audience. And even like the show The Bold Type that Joanna and I made, that was a great, I'm very proud of that show, and critics loved it and never had a massive audience, and that's that's 9 times out of 10 the experience. So for us, I think, for both Jury Duty and White Lotus, it's kind of, again, feels surreal. It feels like this little thing that you're spending years of your life on, and it feels like this little secret that you have, and you can feel proud of it, and we've all worked on things that we think are great and don't find an audience for whatever reason. And so when you have the good fortune, the universe kind of comes together and
Right.
people find the thing that you really believe in, you feel incredibly grateful, but also it feels surreal. And so sometimes you feel defensive when you're being
course.
attacked in the New York Times. It's like it's like this, it's all the feelings.
It's a compliment, though, that everyone just wants to write everything they possibly can because they're just so obsessed with the show. Everyone's like, what more can I write? What more
And how do
can
you
I
keep
say?
from making yourself a suicide smoothie from Timothy Ratliff when people complain about things like nothing's happened this season or that it's going slow? I can't imagine more things happening than actually happened in this season. So what is that like for you to hear those complaints?
Yeah, I hate this term, but I'm going to use it. It feels like you're being gaslit because you're like, 'cause I was in a car with someone the other day and I was talking to my friend. I go, what do you mean nothing's happening? Like season 1, literally nothing happens other than a robbery in the 5th episode. That's all that happens.
It was Cuddy Birdie breakfast, and I loved it. I would watch that for years.
And I love it. And I said to my friend the other day, I go, nothing happens. 2 brothers jerk each other off. One friend, has sex with the other friend's love interest, and then the other friend goes home with a Russian guy and then almost gets beat up. It's like, I would like, it feels confusing, but again, it's better than nobody talking about the show and nobody caring. So I think I think Mike and I have each other in those moments to kind of call each other and kind of go, but again, we're incredibly proud of the show. And I think the thing too is you spend all this time and you dedicate your life. And I think what people don't realize that, Mike especially has he works on this 7 days a week, and it is his entire life. And he's gone, and we're both gone for a year and a half, 2 years. And you want people, and you're trying to say something, I think, especially with White Lotus, and there's a real intention behind everything. And you just want it to land. You want people to kind of feel that. And, and sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. And as artists, I guess you have to live with that.
You know what show I really miss of Mike's is, I don't know him at all, but Enlightenment.
Enlightened.
Laura Dern.
The gay fan base for
that
Enlightened
show
is we
so
hold
much.
it up, we cherish it.
It is
we rage with it.
a jewel box.
Similarly,
Similarly.
the thing I find interesting is that neither Dave nor Mike have become assholes themselves. It's so often you see friends on this trajectory
Right.
and they hit big and then they become monsters. And neither of you are monsters. And that's hugely important. And then the other thing I think is that it's, I think, the only show I can think of recently that's actually had people watching in real time. Like people I knew were like, what are you doing on Sunday night,
The
9
water
o'clock?
cooler,
We're
it's
sitting
back.
down. Yeah, it's back. And it shows you the craving for a communal experience and how few shows actually have the pulling power to do that.
Yeah, I had friends who were texting me like, I'm running late. I'm going to miss 9 p.m. I'm like, it's fine, but it's crazy that this is now come full circle. We're back to that, like, you have to be watching it live.
We need it. Carrie's monologue at the end sent me, and Sam Rockwell. They're just like moments that stand out.
We must talk about Sam Rockwell. That was such genius casting. And there's been all sorts of stuff out there that Woody Harrelson was supposed to have the role. Thank goodness you gave it to Sam Rockwell. Just tell us about that.
I want to clarify that also. Like, Woody Harrelson's the best. He's a friend of ours. He's great, and he would have been amazing in the part. But really, just to make sure it's clear, we had a closed deal with Woody. We were doing it with Woody. Our schedule moved twice. Woody had a birthday party that he had moved twice. That was his family, great friends, and it was in Europe. And it got to the point where basically he's like, all these people have moved their lives twice, and I'm so sorry, but I just can't do this to them again, and I can't do the show. So that's why it didn't work out with Woody. And Sam's amazing. Sam and I and Mike did a movie. We did a movie 20 years ago called Gentlemen Broncos. So we had known Sam for a long time, and it was just a coincidence that Leslie Bibb, his partner, was in the show this season. So as soon as we knew that Woody couldn't do it, Sam was our first idea, and he was in South Africa doing a movie, and his agent, Rhonda Price, who's amazing, and she was like, Sam is someone who really loves to prepare, and he won't do anything half-assed. So, she's like, I don't know if there's enough time for him to do it because he wants to prepare. And he's like, we'll send it to him. So he read it, and then he sends us this long voice note to Mike and I, and he's like, love it, blah, blah, blah. But, I don't think there's enough time, so I don't think I can do it. And we're like, we're not going to let him pass. We're like, great. Just keep thinking about it. And then he's like, yeah, I'm not sure. We're like, great. Just keep thinking about it. And eventually I think that monologue and that character got so in his head that he's like, okay, I have to do it. So he really kind of, to Sam's credit, I think he went out of his comfort zone in terms of having the time to prepare. And I think there was only like a week or two between finishing that movie and coming to Thailand. And he came and he was so prepared, and he's like, could not be a better human being, could not be better to work with. And, we love Sam, and he's, brilliant in that scene.
Well, I thank you for that scene. I thank you for that image of him in the leopard print underwear during that orgy party. And I thank you for the Carrie Coon scene that Sam just mentioned. That was one of the most beautiful monologues about friendship that I've ever seen on TV. I rewatched it, I think, probably a dozen times since the finale aired. It's such a beautiful, beautiful monologue.
Yeah. I mean, Mike's a genius, and I think he just somehow, he's an observer of the human condition, I think, and, he's always paying attention. And I think that for me, I've been working with Mike for a long time, and there's no one that captures the experience of what it is to be a human better than Mike. And I think that moment, is very specific, and is specific about the story of the season, but is also universal. And I think we all have moments where we feel that way, where we're, we've spent our energy and dedicate our lives to something, work, family, whatever it is. And then you kind of take stock of your experiences, and you realize sometimes you're just happy to be there and be alive and kind of be able to experience it all.
Oh my God, you really have gone Buddhist, Dave. You really, I'm hearing a different kind of Dave Bernad.
I mean, speaking of the human condition, and not to totally change the subject, but should Joanna and I go on The Amazing Race together?
Yeah, we're thinking, should we do that?
I mean, it sort of makes sense.
I'll tell you, one of my life regrets. So Mike and I first met each other 20 years ago, we started talking. One of the first conversations we had was about The Amazing Race. And then I said to him, like, we should apply to The Amazing Race together. And we went out, we made a video. We were in matching blue velour jumpsuits, running around Brentwood, acting like fools.
Running around Brentwood.
I mean, kidding. Brentwood Country Narc. Editing the video, I edited the video. We hand wrote our application. I went to El Segundo. I dropped it in like a box. 2 weeks later, CBS calls us, and basically, long story short, I got recast eventually for Mike's dad. And 20 years later, it's one of my life regrets. I wish I had fought for myself.
Right, yep.
And went on the show. But you guys should definitely go. Mike went twice. Amazing seasons of TV, him and his dad. And I think that's like when he talks about that experience, it's like, I think it's on his bucket list of, best experiences of his life was going on the race.
Okay, well, from your lips to God's ears, Joanna, let's do it.
Yeah, Dave, I think you have a doctor's appointment for your voice. So we have to let you go, but very grateful that you gave us the time that you did, and many congrats, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. I want to say one last thing. Joanna, you're the best. I love you. I want to say I met Joanna randomly at a dinner. I don't know, was it 2014, 2015? I was at home on my couch on a Wednesday night. My friend called me and he said, I'm going to dinner. You want to come join me at Soho House? I'm like, not really that interested. And he's like, I'm going with like 10 women. I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you. So I get in my car, I drive over to Soho House, and I get seated next to Joanna. And within 10 seconds of meeting her, she's asking me about my love life and like my sex life and these crazy questions. And I'm just like, this woman is we're gonna be friends for the rest of our lives. And so it's great to see all the things you're doing. Congratulations on everything, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Good. All right. Well, that's
Lovely.
nice of you. Thank you, Dave. And so much fun. And I will say, I went to Mike White had a screening for his episode of Survivor at his house. And because we had had dinner a few times, but always in a small restaurant, I imagined Mike lived in, because he's such a humble guy, I thought, he probably lives in a 2-bedroom apartment somewhere, kind of in Los Feliz or something. And we got to this magnificent house in Brentwood with beautiful Christmas decorations, because it was in December, and the entire of the Hollywood glitterati was there. It was extraordinary, including Angelina with all her children climbing all over her.
Oh,
so
boy.
that was a fun date. Anyway, Dave, thank you very much, and can't wait to hear what season 4 holds.
Yes. Thank you. Good to see you guys.